Lori Roten asks, love your channel. Thanks, Lori. I have a question about sugar cravings. Are there certain foods and or dietary practices that can help to curb intense sugar cravings? I'm wondering if there are specific foods that help in the moment, and also some dietary practices that can bring the cravings to an end over time. This would help so many people in our current culture of sugary processed foods.
Indeed, it's a great question, and that's one of the reasons the popularity of the ketogenic diets have burst on the scene over the last few years. And we're with the ketogenic diet, that's a low carb, low to moderate protein, and high fat diet. And when you think about different fuels that our body uses, think about I use this comparison. For folks that have done a campfire or used a wood stove, have you ever tried to keep that fire going with kindling? You have to keep throwing that in there on the fire, and that's the sugar in our diet, the carbs in our diet, and that log you put on that keeps you warm all night, that's the fats. That's a much more sustainable burning source of energy. But when we're wired to use carbohydrates, and we're not adapted to using fats for our main source of energy, we're constantly going to have those cravings. What we call being on the blood sugar roller coaster, where your blood sugar, you eat a meal. Say you have a bowl of cereal and some orange juice and a cup of coffee for breakfast, which I think that's what I grew up having. A lot of folks watching this probably have had that maybe once or twice in their life. And so your blood sugar's high, and then 10 o'clock in the morning, time for a break, and you're going to be looking for a donut, or because your blood sugar is going to go low again, it's going to crash. So then you'll be looking for that donut or that cinnamon roll, and then your blood sugar will go high again, and then for lunch you're going to be looking for probably supersize the Happy Meal, and then for afternoon snack you'll be looking for the M&Ms in the drawer, and so we keep going up and down, and eventually. As we get older, our cells get resistant to the job that insulin does to get sugar to where we need it. So the carbohydrates that we have in our diet turn to sugar. Some of that will get stored in our muscles and in our liver as glycogen to be used between meals or when we're exercising. And some of it will get used in our cells when insulin is being able to do its job, and the rest will just store as fat. And we become, at some point, fat factories. And so one of the ways to avoid being on the blood sugar roller coaster is to eat meals that are more balanced. So instead of the bowl of cereal and orange juice and or any kind of juice, the juices are just so high in. Fruit's great for us, but the juice is just sugar. If we were to have, say, some eggs and some green beans or some spinach, and you can still enjoy that cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and you notice you won't be on starting your day off on the blood sugar roller coaster, and that can ameliorate those cravings. And it just takes practice to do that. And usually we look at a 21-day, trying something like that for 21 days. And there's some books that are built around that, and other guides that guide us to try to break that habit, to break to being on the blood sugar roller coaster. And especially important because as we get older and insulin can't do its job, then we'll be having even more cravings because we'll have had plenty of carbohydrates, but they're not getting used by our body and not getting even stored. We'll store some as fat, and the rest of it's circulating in our body, doing all sorts of damage. When sugar is circulating in our system, there's something that happens to our tissues. Most of the tissues that the sugar is coming in contact with are proteins, and those proteins get damaged by the sugar. It's called glycation, and we end up producing what's called advanced glycation end products. The way that I look at it or compare it, it's a little bit extreme. If you've ever grilled meat, that grilled part of the meat is a glycation process. So you're damaging the proteins in your body with all that extra sugar. So it's a really important goal to be trying to have more balance and get off the roller coaster.
So it sounds like with time and initial just difficulty, you could eventually change your cravings just based purely on maybe eating more protein and fat.
Yeah, when I've had the opportunities to teach a series of ketogenic diet classes as in my role here, and so I've tried to walk my talk and to do what I've been teaching. And what I found for myself when I've eaten the low carb, low to moderate protein, high fat diet, I had no cravings for anything at all. I'm never actually even hungry.
Yeah.
And and have a more balance, and for me that's more sustainable. Especially working in a store, there's a cookie aisle here, there's a chocolate aisle, candy aisle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of temptations, and I have zero willpower. I when I eat the way that works for me, I feel better, and I really cherish that, and that helps me to avoid some of the things that I could very easily, do that I wouldn't feel as good and stay off of that roller coaster myself.
It's such a good answer. It's such a balanced answer, and for some reason my brain went to, isn't there an herb that you could take where it actually diminishes the taste of sweetness? I can't remember the herb, but I know I tried it one time at Occupy.
And it's it'll come to me. I'm sorry.
But your approach is much more realistic and balanced.
I can offer those. We have a whole section in the store of those, and it's Genema sylvestri.
That's right. Yes.
And when you have you can do an experiment. Take some Genema sylvestri, put it on your tongue, and sweet things don't taste good. And that's a great way.
I did that once, and it really works. It's crazy.
One of the things that I would suggest to folks that were using that is to buy your capsules of Genema sylvestri, open up one capsule inside the bottle, and let it open it up and shake it up. So whenever you swallow the capsule, you get the internal part that you digest, plus you get that taste on your tongue. That will make sweet things not taste so good. We have these herbs, berberine, alkaloid from Oregon grape, and golden seal that will also support our body using insulin more efficiently. So that's a good herb for blood sugar balance as well, and there's a dozen others that help support that. But if we can make those dietary changes, we're going to get more nutrients anyway, because when we're having all those carbs, it's not a nutrient dense diet. If we're having vegetables and healthy proteins, then we'll get more nutrients. We'll be healthier. And remember that health span I talked about earlier. We'll be able to meet that goal.
It's a great answer. You taking notes?